I give it up for Columbia University for the discipline that they're actually doling out there, and for the president for sticking to her guns. She did the absolute right thing with that. I talk frequently about the universities because the universities are where we train the next generation of scientists. It also is where a lot of science is done. And so, like I said previously, the current things going on with Harvard and what have you, sorry, not kosher, a lot of it. Um, but there's also certain things going on with Columbia that folks might have noticed. And I saw it and I was waiting a little bit to comment on it until the whole picture was together. But why bother with this on my part? Because it is where we train, not Columbia specifically, but universities are where we train the next generation of scientists. And so certain things with this are relevant, in particular in the context of free speech, campus expression, for any group of people, not just any one particular group of people, but for anybody on the campus. Um, Certain rights to free expression are involved. And that's where it gets interesting because, of course, you cross a line. So unless you were under a rock, you probably heard about the Columbia University folks, the folks at Columbia University, some of which were students, 65 of which apparently here, according to ABC News, with the Associated Press there as part of the tagline, took over the library at Columbia. There to have their protests. Well, not really a protest. I'm sorry. At that point, this is where I dislike this headline. When you're taking over a library and disrupting other students and vandalizing things and what have you, which did happen, that's not a protest at that point. That is criminal activity and punishable, justly so. Um, so Columbia University suspended dozens of students, all that kind of jazz. I was hoping to actually have pictures in here of what happened inside the library, but I don't think I can play this without running afoul of other things. So I won't do that here, but I will leave you links to go find pictures and images and what have you. But following, as you notice, the suspensions are here, and I'm grateful for that because protesting is fine. Speaking your mind is fine. Taking over a library isn't. And that doesn't help when students are in particular in the midst of finals week, as it turns out. That particular week was at Columbia. Or studying for finals. I forget exactly which. But either way. Heterodox Academy applauds Columbia's response to the library takeover. It is clear that these criminal behaviors will not stop until institutions and law enforcement impose proper sanctions. So this is my sentiment also. It's one of the reasons I say that is that, you know what, you can protest to your heart's content kind of thing. Taking over a library and vandalizing buildings and what have you and restricting the movement of your fellow students is not appropriate and doesn't count as free speech. And truthfully, the more you do that, the more it hinders scientific activity on a university campus, as well as the training of the next generation of students, who would be the students who would be the next generation of scientists. From Free the Inquiry, which is a great Substack publication, by the way. When protesters took over Columbia University's Butler Library on May 7th, prevented others from using the library for their studies, vandalized the building, and apparently assaulted university staff, they were not just violating the university rules, they were also engaged in criminal activity. Protest stops the moment protest stops being about free speech at all if it gets to be criminal. It's not protest anymore. As HXA has previously stated, the right to protest from any point of view on any topic is an essential aspect of freedom of speech, vital to the health of college campuses. But the right does not extend to occupying buildings, excluding others from shared spaces, vandalism, violence, or any other attempt to disrupt the functioning of an institution of higher education. Those activities prevent others from engaging in open inquiry, including research and studying, which is why I'm making comment on this. Same thing here with this is that if you're going around taking over buildings, you're interrupting research, oftentimes in scientific activities, as well as studying of students and the training of students. And can, as they did at the Butler Library, also endanger people. Columbia University took swift action. Its public safety department, working alongside the New York Police Department, demanded that protesters provide identification and leave the premises. In her statement the next day, Columbia's acting president Claire Shipman described witnessing, quote, public safety officers wheeled out on a gurney and another getting bandaged. She also remarked on how the library had been damaged and defaced with what she described as disturbing slogans. Now, before I continue, actually, I do want to, because this I can play the statement of the acting president of Columbia University.
Earlier today, a group of protesters occupied one of the main reading rooms in Butler Library, refusing to leave, and another group breached the front door, causing substantial chaos. All of this as the bulk of our students are working hard to prepare for exams. These actions not only represented a violation of university policies, but they also posed a serious risk to our students and campus safety. We had no choice but to ask for the assistance of the NYPD, and I'm grateful for their help and professionalism, as well as that of our public safety team. Let me be clear, what happened today, what I witnessed, was utterly unacceptable. I spent the late afternoon and evening at Butler Library as events were unfolding to understand the situation on the ground and to be able to make the best decisions possible. I arrived to see one of our public safety officers wheeled out on a gurney and another getting bandaged. As I left hours later, I walked through the reading room, one of the many jewels of Butler Library, and I saw it defaced and damaged in disturbing ways and with disturbing slogans. Violence and vandalism, hijacking a library, none of that has any place on our campus.
Correct answer. Very correct answer. I give her a lot of credit for saying it truthfully and accurately in that way. That's not protest when you start doing that anymore. That's not covered under First Amendment protections. None of that is. And it's certainly well within the authority of the university to say, no, you're not doing that.
These aren't Columbia's values. Let me be clear. Columbia unequivocally rejects anti-Semitism and all other forms of harassment and discrimination. And we certainly reject a group of students, and we don't know yet whether there were outsiders involved, closing down a library in the middle of the week before finals, forcing 900
Oh, then I correct myself because it was the week before finals, apparently, at Columbia.
students out of their study spaces, many leaving belongings behind. Our commitment to a safe, inclusive, and respectful campus community is unshakable, and we will continue to act decisively to uphold these values. Let me also make clear, our administration spent substantial time working to diffuse the situation in multiple ways through public safety and delegate visits to the students, scenes I witnessed firsthand. The students were told they simply needed to identify themselves and then leave, but most refused. I worked with professors who generously came to have the same conversations. I'm enormously grateful for the many people we have in our community, our public safety officers, our faculty, our staff, and my team who work so hard to make Columbia what we know it can be and should be for our community. I also made sure to be present when the police arrived. I wanted to see for myself how the operation would unfold, and I'm grateful that it was orderly, professional, and extremely limited, with a focus on the students who refused to leave the reading room. I am particularly heartbroken and incensed that this disruption occurred when our students are intensely focused on critical academic work.
That is a critical thing, just to recognize you're right before your final exams. I cannot imagine how disruptive that was for the students who were about to take their exams the following week. And again, that goes toward the training of students in various disciplines of sciences, social sciences and physical sciences, too, alongside the humanities folks. You disrupted everything in their training. That isn't covered under the things of free speech or academic freedom to do that.
At a moment when our community deserves calm, the opportunity to study, reflect, complete the academic year successfully, these actions created unnecessary stress and danger. I've seen how much our community wants to take back our narrative, do what they came to Columbia to do, learn, thrive, grow, not take over a library. Moreover, I'm deeply disturbed at the idea that at a moment when our international community feels particularly vulnerable, a small group of students would choose to make our institution a target. We at Columbia value freedom of speech, robust debate, and peaceful protest. Today's disruption of Butler Library was not that. We must and we will.
That's exactly the right thing. If you're disrupting things in a library, if you take over a building, you vandalize it, that's not peaceful protest. That's criminal.
Come together as a community to consider what civil disobedience actually is, what it means. We need to recognize that when rules are violated, when a community is disrupted for the sake of a few, that is a considered choice and one with real consequences. There's a line between legitimate protest and actions that endanger others and disrupt the fundamental work of the university. Today, that line was crossed, and I have confidence the disciplinary proceedings will reflect the severity of the actions. I'm also working with the provost and university.
I will say, obviously, I showed you the ABC article at the beginning, and having as many students suspended as they were was the right decision. For any of those students who were involved in taking over the library and disrupting others and vandalizing the building, they earned that if they were students. I think that was exactly the right decision.
Life to ensure that any affected students receive support and the resources they need. We've opened a new study space at URIS that will be available overnight tonight for students. I want to also say this. I have received many messages from concerned parents. The group involved tonight is less than 1% of our 36,000 person student body. Their actions had a disproportionate impact. This is the last kind of message I want to be delivering tonight, but Columbia's strength lies in our resilience. We are strong, we are determined, and we will not let this moment define us. I've heard consistently from our community that we're ready to pull together to fight for the value of Columbia. So we will get back to business, our real business, the business of teaching, learning, studying, researching. We have an incredible commencement to look forward to and finals to prepare for. We will move forward together to show the world the best of Columbia.
Very good statement on the part of the acting president of Columbia. And she absolutely did the right thing. And so has Columbia in suspending those students who were involved and making sure those who were outside the campus don't show up on your campus again. So Shipman's remarks were not merely descriptive. She importantly added there is a clear line between legitimate protests and actions that endanger others and disrupt the fundamental work of the university. Today, that line was crossed, and I have confidence the disciplinary proceedings will reflect the severity of the actions. I agree with the sentiment wholeheartedly. I may fundamentally disagree with whatever you're protesting about, but you can protest your heart out. But the minute you cross the line into criminal action, taking over a building, vandalizing it, disrupting students, and harassing any students that might be there, you're done. That's not free speech anymore. That's not protest. That's criminal action, and you've earned whatever punishment you're going to get on that. We applaud Columbia University's decision to call the New York Police Department, law enforcement's arrest of the perpetrators, and the acting president's pledge to pursue disciplinary sanctions against all of those involved. Our colleges and universities must be places where all students can engage in open inquiry, free of harassment, intimidation, and violence. And it is clear that these criminal behaviors will not stop until institutions and law enforcement impose proper sanctions. That's going to go a long way towards addressing issues of campus free expression. And so I share the sentiment. I applaud Columbia University's president for sticking to her guns and for actually doing, because I think this is a few days later where many students who were involved in not a protest. I'm sorry, it's not a protest, ABC. That is the wrong thing for it. That was criminal action in the library, and all of them were suspended for that reason. So I give it up for Columbia University for the discipline that they're actually doling out there, and for the president for sticking to her guns. She did the absolute right thing with that. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way out the door, comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Till next time, I'm Adrienne. Stay curious.